was a cause of Scott Walker's problems. That's going to be, I know the two cutesy, smart, takey headlines tomorrow. Maybe we'll have one, maybe not when we think about it a little bit more. It'll be, number one, Walker is the new Tim Pawlenty, and number two, that Walker is Donald Trump's first or second victim, depending on how you count Rick Perry.
I think that's a question that we'll have to sort of delve into in the days ahead. But I will say that Walker's strength coming into this campaign was that he was going to do well in Iowa because he was from next door Wisconsin. And once Trump overtook him in that state, it was kind of like, where is Scott Walker going to go from here?
I mean, to me, I'm not sure that he made the right decision, Scott Walker. Some of this is you're in a negative momentum spiral. We talked about that last week for Hillary Clinton, how until something fundamental changes, then if it's going well, it often gets better based on quote-unquote momentum, or it gets worse. There are a lot of stories about how you're doing poorly, you're sinking in the polls, people jump off the bandwagon, you don't get any more money, you don't get any more support. But you could say still it's mid-September, the three candidates leading the polls right now are not especially likely to be the nominees. That being at 5% or 2% or asterisk percent is not that different than being at 8 or 9%.
Sure, but I guess the reason that Walker decided to drop out and why he, I guess, would disagree with your decision, clearly, if he is getting out because he's the candidate, and if he wanted to, he wants to win more than anyone.
Yeah. People can't regret this stuff. Tim Pawlenty, people were like wistful for Tim Pawlenty when you kept having all these candidates having surges, and they're like, boy, maybe if he stayed in, he could have won Iowa.
I mean, he certainly could have, but I think that what it fundamentally comes down to is that he understood that he just did not have the money to pay to keep himself in the game, and he didn't really see a way to get out of the cellar. These debates just haven't been going his way, and you enter into that loop, and then you just can't figure out a way to get out. How he's going to raise the money to get out, it was just something that, in the end, didn't work out for him.
Could one say that he got unlucky?
Sure. I mean, one could definitely say he got unlucky. I mean, he just sort of, if he had done one or two things differently, he might have been able to keep it alive. Maybe if he had focused more on Iowa instead of focusing more nationally and going to New Hampshire, maybe he could have kept it alive. Maybe if he didn't spread his resources too wide, been doing what Bobby Jindal is doing, a low burn rate in Iowa, seems to be working out for him, at least staying alive in this race.
So we'll try not to be too mournful of Scott Walker's loss. Again, a guy, though, we think was a serious contender, but he's out now. He only had 1% of the vote, so it's not like there's a lot of vote to distribute. But tactically, ideologically, where does this clear space for other candidates, and what's it tell us about the arc of the race?
I think that this probably helps three candidates. One is obviously Marco Rubio, who is sort of this person who came in the class of 2010 and started serving in 2011, sort of this outsider candidate who also had establishment sort of appeal. I think that's definitely one. Two, it helps someone like Jeb Bush, who, who's just trying to be able to be the sane Republican in this race who can outspend everybody. Walker might have been able to compete with him. Obviously, Walker's not going to be able to do so anymore. And three is Ted Cruz, because if you look at where Republican voters thought that the different candidates were ideologically, Cruz was one of these candidates who was very close to Walker, who was an actual elected official instead of, say, the Carson Fiorina Trump type who had never served in elective office.
So I would say, I would agree it helps all those candidates. I might say Rubio a little bit more than Bush, in the sense that what helps Rubio probably hurts Bush, so there's a little bit of trade-off there. I would say that Fiorina is also not in the worst position, because in a different way, she also has that establishment/outsider fringe, where on the one hand, she's never held elective office, lost pretty badly in California, though not easy for a Republican in California when she tried in 2010. On the other hand, her policy positions are pretty conventional. She was a surrogate for John McCain in 2008.
She failed surrogate, but keep going.
A failed surrogate, yeah. I mean, she's not been very good at that many things that she's tried, but she's very good at debating.
I think a key lesson is just because you're good on paper doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do well. But I think the other thing that we often get confused about is just because, say, a candidate has X and X percent chance of winning, that doesn't necessarily correlate to how much of the vote they actually get. Because in another universe, Walker might have very well won, but not, that's a binary sort of going on here. But if everything went wrong, as clearly it did, it doesn't necessarily work out to him just barely not winning. He may not come anywhere close to winning.
Yeah, and the idea of being, of the establishment getting behind you and the party decides that you can do what John Kerry did in 2004 and go from being in the single digits to all of a sudden be the consensus nominee after Iowa. So it can be a bit all or nothing. There's not a lot of point if you think that you don't have a path to staying on in the race when you're liable to lose. But But still, this is probably the most, I would say, consequential event of the primary cycle so far.